Good morning, everybody. Man, it's killing me knowing I got to go to work today. This weather is so nice. It is absolutely beautiful today. Temperatures are great. I'm loving this weather. Got a quick tip for you beginner fishermen, guys that are just starting out. This is something that I struggled with when I was younger. When do I set the hook? If I'm fishing a worm or a jig or anything like that, when do I set the hook? So let me tell you, when I was a kid, I fished with my cousin a lot, and his dad would go with us sometimes. And you know, they did things different back then than we do now. He fished with a cream worm. You know, back then there wasn't a whole lot of choices when it came to plastic worms. He fished a cream worm, purple with a fire tail. Everybody fished with them back then, and the way they would rig them on a weedless worm hook with a little wire weed guard. And when he would rig the thing, it would be curved like this. He put a swivel on his line and he'd cast it out, and he'd just reel it in slow, and the thing would just twist and flip. And he caught fish on it. But here's the thing, when he would get bit, he'd mash the button on his closed face reel and let the fish run for a long time. I mean, you could see line just coming out of his reel, you know. And by the time he would hook the fish would be on the other side of the pond. He's done wrapped around everything, gone through the weeds, gone through the brush piles, you know. And if you're lucky enough to get the fish all the way to the bank, he swallowed the hook all the way into his stomach. Of course, back then they weren't catching and releasing; they were catching and eating, you know. But even as a kid, I thought there's got to be a better way. You know, because you're killing every fish you catch on a worm because it's swallowing it all the way down to its stomach. So the question, when do I set the hook? The answer is immediately. When you feel that thunk or you feel that tap tap, set the hook right then. Right then. Guys, bass don't have hands. When you feel that thump, it's in his mouth, set the hook. And there's a reason you want to set the hook quick. There's a couple of reasons. My home lake where I moved from in Mississippi, it was extremely pressured. Man, this place got hammered, and these fish got educated. When you felt that thump, you better set the hook. The guy said, well, when I feel the bite, I count to 3 and then I set the hook. Them fish wouldn't give you 3 seconds. When you feel the bump, 2 seconds, they're dropping it. You're gonna feel another bump. That second bump is the fish blowing it out. And 2, if you let a fish keep it very long, they're going to get it back in their throat. When you feel the bump, set the hook right now. Right now. He don't have hands. He don't have pockets. You know, when he bumps it, it's in his mouth. So, let me tell you something else that it took me a long time to figure out. And I learned this by accident. Have you ever been fishing a worm and you raise your rod to start moving your worm and you feel a bump and you set the hook into nothing? Man, that used to happen to me on that lake so much, and I'm thinking, why am I missing these fish? Here's what happens. The bass picks up your worm on a slack line and you don't feel the bite. And then when you start to move it, he feels the pressure. When he blows that bait out, you feel another bump. Feels exactly like the bump when he picks it up. Here's how I learned that. I was bed fishing one day. We won't get into the whole bed fishing controversy. I've talked to the fisheries biologist about it. We just won't go there. But I was bed fishing. There was a male and there was a female on the bed, and I didn't want to catch him. I wanted his girlfriend. But he kept picking my worm up, so I kept, you know, I'd feel it when he'd run up there and he'd suck it in. I'd feel that tap, and I was pulling, just putting pressure on him, trying to get him to release it. And when he would blow it out, boom, I'd feel another bump. It felt exactly like the bump when he picked it up. And I thought, okay, that makes sense. When I'm feeling that bump and I'm setting the hook into nothing, I'm actually feeling the fish blow the bait out. Paul Elias, I think it was Paul Elias, said years ago when he was learning to worm fish, his grandpa told him, he said, now son, that first tap is the fish picking it up. The second tap is the fish blowing it out. And the third tap is going to be my rod over the top of your head because you waited too long to set the hook. So, guys, when you feel that thump, set the hook. You want to fish when you're fishing with a soft plastic or jig. You want to fish with your rod in about a 10 o'clock position. You want your rod up here. You don't want it pointed at the fish. There's a couple reasons for that. When your rod's up here, it's more sensitive. When you get that bite, you can feel it in the rod better than you can if your rod's pointed at the fish and just pulling straight on the line. Another reason, when you feel that bump, you can lower that rod, take up your slack, and come back and set your hook. When you feel that bump, the time it takes you to take up your slack and lower your rod, set the hook right then. That's all the time you need. You don't have to count to 3. You don't have to mash the button and let him run. When he bites it, blistering. Set the hook. That's the tip for today, guys. But look, before you go, I want to tell you about something. If you'll go to my bio, click the link in my bio, in my bio, there's some free resources there. There's a free beginner's bass fishing guide that I think you'll really like. If you're a seasoned fisherman, you don't need this. But if you're a beginner, if you're just starting out, this will be some good information for you, something you can really use. There's also a free Psalms 23 7-day devotional that my wife put together that's absolutely great. There's a link to all our coloring books. There's a link to some other stuff we've got going on. All this stuff, it's all free, guys. It's pay what you want. It has a box down there. It gives you where you can put in an amount. If you don't want to pay for it, put a 0 and it'll download. If you want to help us out, you can put an amount in there and click the pay button and it'll download. Guys, thank y'all so much. Thank you for all your views. Thank you for all your comments, all your likes. I really, really, really appreciate it, guys. God bless y'all. That's your tip of the day. We'll see y'all next time.